You're listening to the Planet 76 podcast, a podcast about 76ers basketball, and we're cleared for takeoff. Let's go.
Welcome, everyone, to Planet 76 podcast, your number one source for Sixers all the time. Episode 52 is about to be underway. Sixers. Welcome, everyone. As you know, Michael, Troy. Before we start the episode, make sure you guys subscribe to the podcast. Go check us out on YouTube. We've been doing really well on YouTube. Go check us out on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Spotify, subscribe, whatever you got to do. You know the drill. Let's get right into it. Troy, why don't you give a brief... We have a little outline here. I'll let Troy explain a little bit since he did the dirty work there. I'll let him explain a little bit what we got coming for you guys and what we're going to get into with this episode. Obviously, Sixers recap from the playoffs. We haven't recorded since last... No, we didn't even record last Thursday. We haven't recorded for 2 weeks.
Yep.
Yeah,
so this is literally myself and Michael's first time chatting it up since the Sixers were removed from the playoffs. We of course did the recaps of each game, particularly games 5 and 6, and game 6 being the elimination last Thursday. So we are 1 week later, 1 week, I guess, if you can say it that way, into the Sixers off season. 1 week removed from Sixers play, and we're still rolling. That's what we do on Planet 76. There is no off season for us, so
grind all day.
So just to give you an idea of what's to come on this episode, and then what's to come a little bit down the road. So this week, we're just gonna give our thoughts, like Mike said, on the Miami series, on the playoffs that was, and again, we're now 1 week removed, so hopefully some of the emotions and things will, a little bit will be tamed, but they'll come back up a little bit, I'm sure, in this episode. Just our thoughts there, and then give some playoff grades for the players and for Glenn Rivers. So that'll be an interesting one. And then next week, what we're planning, at least for these couple weeks, to kind of wrap up the season, we'll go more extensive into just a broad season recap, just bring up some key dates, some key games, some key things that led to the Sixers season that was. Of course, early February with James Harden coming along and those kind of things, just to kind of reflect on the season that was there. And then look ahead a little bit into, what's next for the Sixers, what really is going to happen with some names that might not be here next year. Who knows? We think about Matisse, we think about Tobias Harris, we think about some of the guys on the bench. It seems like Glenn Rivers is safe. We're going to talk about that tonight. But we'll get into that. We'll talk some James Harden and his contract restructuring or whatever it is that he's going to go through. And, so that's going to be the next couple weeks, and we're excited for it. So, so since we haven't talked, why don't you just kind of fill me in? I mean, you've been very active on Trust the Love on Instagram over the last week, and so just fill me in on how you're feeling, how you're doing. If we could, obviously a disappointing end of the season last week, but we've had a week to kind of to wrestle with it. So just walk me through this last week for you, Mr. Trust the Love.
Yeah, I mean, entering last weekend, there was lots of things, some frustration, maybe not really optimism, but, kind of just somewhere in the middle between optimism and pessimism. It's just, I don't know. I can't really pinpoint how I feel about this team now. One thing's for sure, though. I am not taking them seriously next year at all. Regular season, I don't care if they win 82 games. I don't. And that's never going to happen because it's never happened, but that's just the lengths I'm willing to keep my sanity with this team. If one thing was shown to me this playoffs, specifically the second round, is that I will not be taking this Sixers team seriously until the playoffs again next year at the very least. And even then, I may not. Even then I may not, because guess what? 3 times in the past 4 years have the Sixers been eliminated in the second round of the playoffs. Now, okay, the Kawhi shot, sure, fluke, if you will, but it doesn't matter because that's what happened. So, I'm a Sixers fan, but I'm taking a I'm taking a step back.
Yeah, it's disappointing. You know, I mean, last week, I mean, games 5 and game 6 were just so disappointing
Pitiful.
for the Sixers.
Disgusting.
I would have rather,
atrocious.
We didn't play so well in games 3 and 4. If we were going to do that in games 5 and 6, I'd rather them ended it in game 4. If they would have swept us, honestly, because it was just so bad. Games 5 and 6, and it was a big letdown,
So
a
bad.
very disappointing end of the season. I don't know if it's even necessarily fair to compare it to last year with Atlanta in the second round, but because I think the Sixers were certainly more expected to win the series against Atlanta last year than they were this series. This was kind of a toss-up, although most people were leaning toward Miami, especially when they found out Joel Embiid was injured. And Joel, of course, missed the first 2 games in this series, to give you a little recap. And then he returned in Game 3, and Sixers got it done at home. They took care of business in Game 3 and 4. They looked good. James Harden played very well. Joel did what he could. He just made a difference being out there, his presence alone. And then just destroyed in Miami in Game 5, similar to the year that we did lose to Toronto. We got creamed Game 5 in Toronto. I don't know if you remember that. Before the Kawhi shot in Game 7, they killed us. And then we came back. We responded in Game 6 with a win against Toronto, and then the Kawhi shot in Game 7. But this one, so it had feels of that, but it turned out differently as we didn't return to Miami for Game 7, as the Sixers just looked bad in Game 6, particularly that third quarter. I don't know if you remember, but the offense, man.
It was close in the first half.
Yeah.
Here comes the Heat,
that
10-0 run, and that was it.
Right. Yeah, Sixers were within striking distance. I remember seeing a tweet or someone said, these first few minutes in the third quarter are going to be huge, and they were. I mean, the Sixers got down 17-18, 19-20, and it was like they just couldn't fight back. They tried to make a run. Shake Milton tried to make a run himself. Couldn't do it. And, it was ugly offense, ugly basketball. But yeah. So, actually, let me ask you this. So, in the Game 6 recap, there was a lot of people saying in Games 5 and Game 6, Sixers didn't have a lot of effort. They didn't try, all that stuff. I get that, but one of the things I said in the Game 6 recap, I think, was along the lines of sometimes the word effort, that we didn't have enough effort, can just be a cop-out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you feel about that, because I feel like you're playing in the second round of the playoffs against the Miami Heat. It's 3-2. You have a chance to go back to Miami. There's no way that you're just out there not trying. I mean, Danny Green put his body on the line and is hurt now.
Literally,
and has a long road to recovery. Joel Embiid put his body on the line in the last 4 games of that series. There were guys giving effort. So it's what was the issue? Why did we look so bad? I don't know if it was effort or what. What did you see?
Well, I think it all comes down to, let's be honest, the Sixers missed a ton of shots in Game 6. It was just bricks. They were building houses. It was just disgusting, especially Harden. I know Embiid was injured, but Embiid. Everybody. I can't even really place the blame on one. Yeah. We like to place blame. Oh, well, Embiid lost his game. Harden lost his game. You like to place blame, but it's not. You can't just place blame on one player for this. This was a collective team effort. Game 5, but Game 6, obviously, because it was an elimination game.
Right.
This was a collective team effort. No, I don't even. I can't blame anyone. Single-handedly, it was this. The Sixers did this. This was them. It wasn't just one person. It wasn't just a group of people, a group of players. It was the whole team, really.
Right, and it wasn't a lack of effort as much as it was they just, like you said, they missed a lot of shots. They played. They just poorly.
Looked right. Yeah, however you want to slice it, they just didn't look good. Right. If you want to call it effort, if you want to call it shot making, bottom line is they just didn't look good.
Yep.
It doesn't really matter why. It kind of does, but in the grand scheme of things, they didn't look good.
Yeah,
and that's all that really matters, I think.
Right. Yeah, I think too. I think what I said in this Game 6 recap was that to me it wasn't as much a lack of effort. It was sometimes a lack of mental awareness as to what was going on. There were, especially Game 5 and 6, there were just bad turnovers, lazy passes. There were some questionable shot attempts.
Oh, yeah.
Joel, I think of a couple. He was triple teamed on one shot, mid-range. We were down 15, 13, whatever, and just shot it with guys open. And I think at the end of the first half, Joel didn't demand, but he called for the ball from James Harden, and Joel takes the step-back three instead of James Harden taking the patented step-back three that he takes. And so it's just kind of weird things like that I notice. A lot of ISO ball, and we got our butt beat. So, yeah. So, I guess we can transition to some playoff grades if you want.
Okay.
And, so I've got a list ahead of me, and, I know you've been releasing these. What are you doing, one day at a time or something for some of these guys? Or
Monday I did 2, Tuesday I did 1, yesterday I did 1.
Okay.
Wait, no. No. Monday I did 2, Tuesday I did 2. Wait. I don't even know. What's today, Thursday?
Yep.
Today I did 1, yesterday I did 1, whatever. I think I've done 4 or 5 at this point. So.
All right. I'm going to call them out, and you give me your playoff grade. So this is Toronto series, Miami series combined, taking everything into account, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's hear it. I'll name them off. You give me a grade. James Harden.
So this is probably going to be the most controversial one that I do because I haven't posted it yet, and 2, I haven't even made the thing for it yet. I might just post this.
Right.
I'm going to give him a, what did I give Tyrese Maxey? I'm going to give Harden a B-. Okay. Because I don't know if he's worthy of a B because, well, I won't spoil it, I guess, but I gave someone else a B, and I don't know if he was on the level of the person I gave the B to, but he was good in the playoffs. He was good.
Mm-hmm.
He had that game 4, which arguably won the Sixers that game.
Right.
He had arguably his best game as a Sixer in 4 months. Well, 3 months. He was good. He wasn't fantastic. He was great in game 4, but he was good overall.
Right.
And I think, I gave Maxey a B-. Oh, I just spoiled it. I didn't mean to do that.
He gave Maxey a B, folks.
No, I gave him a B-.
B-. You just gave Harden a B-.
Wait, what did I give Maxey?
Probably a B.
What's worse?
A B- is worse.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. I actually give Harden a B-.
Yep, that's what you said.
For all of the reasons, but for all the reasons I just said, though.
No, you gave Harden a B-. You're good.
I did give him a B-?
Yes.
Why did I give him a B?
Nope.
What's happening? Okay. Okay. Just forget about that. Harden B. Move on.
All right.
Wait, no, Harden B-.
There you go.
Sorry.
You heard it here.
Okay.
Lock it in. B-. So, so when you say controversial, do you say you think maybe people will
say
put him in the C
people are
range?
going to say he's going to be, People are going to give him a lower grade than that.
Right. Yeah, I don't mind where you put him. I think, game 4 especially helped against Miami. I thought that there were moments in even games 1 and 2 of that series without Joel Embiid where it's not like he went off for 30 points or anything, but there were moments where it's like, okay, he kept us in it. He was very active.
Yeah.
First half, we had the lead in game 1 of the first half against Miami, and James Harden had like 9 assists or something. I don't remember exactly, but he just played well as a game manager. He wasn't James Harden of Houston, whatever. We can say that all day long, but we're not grading him to be James Harden of Houston. We're grading him for what he is in Philadelphia.
What he is, yeah.
And so he had moments. He had moments against Toronto where I thought he was very good. He had moments in Toronto where I thought, okay, maybe he can do more. So I think that's fair. All right. So Tyrese Maxey.
Ironically enough, he's next on the list. I just noticed that. Yeah. So I give Tyrese Maxey a similar grade to James Harden for somewhat similar reasons. I think Maxey was also good.
Mm-hmm.
He also had a 30-point game or 2 as well in the playoffs, and he was good. He was really good, especially contextually when you realize that it was his first real playoff series as opposed to last season when, well, I should say first postseason as a whole.
Right.
Because let's be honest, he didn't really play last year as much as he did this year, especially. Right. And I think he was good. I think he was very good. He also had his off nights, which again was result of defenses, just bad shooting.
Right.
Because the Raptors and Heat were both really good defensively against the Sixers, as we saw. And obviously with Maxey being one of the Sixers' main scorers, he is going to have off days, off nights, and we saw that a little bit. So I think a B- is fair. I think I didn't want to give him a C+. I feel like that was too harsh. Some people, I posted this already on my page. Some people were saying he should get a B. Some people saying B+, but I'm gonna stick with the B- because
B-. They said B.
Yeah. What did I say? No, I definitely. No, wait. Let me
Run
just
the tape.
Okay. In the meantime, you tell me yours. I'm gonna go check what I had.
What do you have on
my
that?
thing.
Okay, so Tyrese Maxey, I do not disagree with that. And to your point, I think that some of those off nights are the reason for that grade not being as high as it could be. I mean, he came out the gate with a 38-point game in the playoffs, so he started out with an A+, and then, there were other moments where he was probably on that A line, but I think that's fair. I think that, especially for his first playoffs, and he's going to get better.
Yeah, I did give him a B-. So yeah.
There you go. B- for Tyrese Maxey. Okay, Danny Green, the starter in the playoffs.
Yes. Now, I gave Danny Green a C+, partially because he was also good, but
partially because he went like 0 for 10 from 3 one game. Yeah.
Yeah, some of the games he was. Some of the games he was okay, but he was very good in the second round, I will say. So I think it kind of evened itself out into a C+. Some people might give him a B-, but I will not. I'm going to give him a C+. I also think his defense was pretty good in playoffs. I think people don't see Danny Green as a defender anymore, but yeah. I still think he, number one, has a lot to give defensively, and number two is still a very capable defender, and I think this playoffs kind of showed that. So I think that was kind of underrated. So I give him a C+.
Okay, yeah, I would put him on the B line if he had a little bit more consistent shooting.
Yeah.
He was either red hot Danny Green or he was ice cold Danny Green.
Yeah.
All right, this one I'm very excited to hear. Tobias Harris.
Okay. So I actually posted about this literally almost an hour ago.
Okay, I did not see that then.
That's okay. Gave him a B. Tobias Harris consistently shows up in the playoffs. Last year, this year, he played well. Well, he didn't play well in 2020. But you know what? For the Sixers, the bubble does not count.
Yeah.
It's an anomaly. That year didn't happen. But in 2019, he was also pretty good, too, in the playoffs. So, Tobias Harris consistently rises to the occasion in the playoffs. I gave him a B. This year was no different. He played so well in the first round, especially defensively against Pascal Siakam. And in the second round, he played well, too. So, he gets a B. He's currently the highest rank of the people we've discussed so far.
I would at the very least say B+.
See, people are saying B+ in my comments as well.
I would, part of me just for argument's sake, part of me wants to say A-.
Wow. Okay.
Just because why not?
Why not?
I was happy with his play. He was very consistent. He was there. He was the most consistent of all these guys, and he played well. Especially because we think we have the recency bias going on with the Miami Heat series and how that ended, and But again, the Toronto series, he was huge. He was huge on Siakam, and he was huge getting some buckets. He was making shots. So Tobias Harris, I'm very pleased with how he played in the playoffs. I wish it was a longer, bigger sample size, but yeah. All right, Mr. Embiid to round out the starting lineup. Then we'll go through the bench quickly.
So this one might be the more controversial one that I say. I gave Embiid a B+. Now it could be an A-, depending on how you look at it. But, and again, he was injured, so context is key. Yeah. He was injured. However, I gave him a B+.
Okay. Yeah, I don't go A- with him.
Okay.
I wish he was healthy, man. I really do. I think it goes back to. We said it throughout the whole Miami series. It's turning into the ultimate what if series because
it's going to look a lot different if Embiid is healthy for
what
1
if
and 2. Let's just put
Miami? What if he played all? The 2 first games in Miami. What would that series have been? Would the Sixers be in the next round? We don't know. We can speculate all day long, but we don't know. He was injured. He was injured, especially against Miami. I mean, the thumb was bothering him against Toronto. He had a couple monster games, obviously with them,
Yeah.
but he was injured. I think, his impact went beyond the stat line. We saw that and how the Sixers were able to respond and rally and tie the series at 2 just because he was out there. He didn't play particularly well, but for his standards, but he kind of helped us there. So let's go to the bench and Matisse Thybulle. Question though, are you taking into consideration Matisse Thybulle's lack or inability to play in Toronto? How does that factor in?
Honestly, I'm just gonna base it off of what he gave us, and I'm gonna say D+. It wasn't that good.
You say D+.
D+.
Okay.
He was not very good.
Emphasis on the plus.
Played all. What did he play? 9 games. 10 games. He missed 3 in Toronto.
Yeah.
So
we played 12 games
6
total.
And 3. Yeah. So 9. He was very, very underwhelming in the playoffs, I must say.
Yeah. I'd have to look at some stats, look at some of his numbers. Offensively, I mean, I know what he did defensively. He wasn't. Sometimes Matisse is just Superman Matisse, where it doesn't matter if he goes over 6 from 3 with 4 air balls. It doesn't matter because he's just that good at defense. But he wasn't quite that, if I do recall, in these playoffs. Okay. D+ for Matisse Thybulle. More to come on Matisse, by the way. Trust the Love has had some posts on that man. Furkan Korkmaz, he got limited action. I don't know how many games he played in. I can pull that up though.
Somewhere between a D+ and a C-, maybe on the higher end of a C-.
Okay.
He played mostly in the second round, but he also wasn't that good. The bench was so inconsistent and underwhelming in the playoffs.
Right.
And now people think our bench sucks, but it doesn't really suck. The guys were just inconsistent and really bad. Like they're not bad, but they just played very bad and very poorly.
Yeah, he played in 9 of the 12 games in the postseason.
Yeah.
Limited action, of course, but so very small sample size. It's hard to rate him anywhere else. Who's next? Let's go Shake Milton.
I gave Shake a C. I'm comfortable with that. A lot of people said... Some people were mad at that. I had a few comments saying he should have been lower. Someone said he was... Actually, I think somebody said he was a C-. Or no. Someone said he was a C+. I keep forgetting which one's higher and which one's lower. But I think someone said a C+. A couple people said C-. But I think C is fair. I think he played... Again, C is okay. He played okay. Nothing, like I said, the bench was not very good in the playoffs. So I think a lot of guys were just on the cusp of good and average for the most part.
See, to me, Shake is the guy who, and I said it, I think, in our last podcast, full length one. Shake is the guy who, for his performance, I'm not mad at him. I'm mad at the coaching staff because he didn't get a fair look. He got a fair look in Game 6 and almost brought us back into the game. He scored 15 in 28 minutes. He was 3 for 4 from 3, against Miami in Game 6. And, then you look at I just noticed this, Game 2 against Miami, he played a grand total of 1 minute. Game 1, he played 15. Yeah. Game 3, he played 9 minutes. He just didn't get a fair opportunity, and it's the same story even against Toronto. Shake is a guy off the bench who can score the basketball, and the Sixers need that.
And all of this trickles from Glenn not having the rotation set in the regular season.
Right.
Because, yes, Shake was injured, and he didn't come back for a while. Mm-hmm. But all of this stems from the rotations not being set. You have 82 games, plus preseason, plus practices. How do you not know the rotations? Why is Shake not getting consistent minutes? Why is Furk getting some of his minutes? He barely played in the first round. Why is he getting minutes in the second round?
Right.
It makes no sense. And I when I posted about this on my Instagram, I was like, hey, this grade probably would have been higher if he got minutes because he needs volume to be productive. Most guys do. Most bench guys do. They need volume both in minutes and shot attempts to be productive. And Shake didn't really get that. So, there wasn't much he could have possibly done.
Exactly. We're precisely on the same page. I feel for Shake. I think that if he would have, consistently 15, 16 minutes a night.
Volume. These guys, these role players need volume. They're not Joel Embiid. They're not Tyrese. They're not James Harden.
Right.
They need touches and they need.
Well, and again,
volume.
and him more than any of these other guys on the bench because
he can create his own shot.
He can create his own shot.
Too.
He can go get a bucket.
Right.
He's shown that. He's earned that. Yeah. And it would have just been good to see him more. Okay. DeAndre Jordan.
F-.
All right, moving on. Paul Reed.
I gave Paul Reed a C.
Okay.
What do you think? Is that fair?
I think that's fair. I think that's fair. Especially talk about
someone. He was good.
Right. Talk about someone who's getting his first burn, playoff minutes, and it's not like he was an every single day player in the regular season. Like he's, he stepped into a role, and did well. I thought. There's moments, of course, where you're like, Paul Reed, what are you doing? But then there's moments like, Paul Reed, I love you.
Which, again, stems from him not getting consistent minutes. All of this, not all, but some of this can stem from that, and does.
Mm-hmm. All right, so last player, I think, I don't think I'm forgetting, but it's 11 guys. So George Niang, interesting one.
So, I love George Niang, man.
I'm going to pull up some numbers.
Great player, but I gave him a C.
A C?
You think that's...
I don't know. I'm about to look.
He, maybe lower, but maybe a C-.
Certainly not higher, yeah.
Yeah,
let me look here,
higher. He just...
I want to see what he did, because I know his shooting was bad, and, he had moments where he had good defense. He had moments where you're like, George, you're slow.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Okay, in the round against Miami, George Niang shot 17% from 3.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah, it looks like, 0 for 1, 0 for 6, 2 for 5, 1 for 3, 1 for 3, 0 for 7 in game 1. He hit double digits once against Miami. He hit double digits 0 times against Toronto, but he was a little more consistent against Toronto. He put up 9, 9, 8, those kind of numbers. But, yeah, George was, there's only so much. I mean, if a guy doesn't make a couple shots for a sample size of 12 games, it's kind of hard to judge because it's like it's not like he was bad shooting for 82 games during the regular season or anything. It was just 12-game stretch. He didn't shoot the ball particularly well, and we really needed it. So the grade is what it is because of that. All right. Glenn Rivers.
I'd love to give him an F. But he was not horrible in the playoffs, I guess. I gave him C-. I mean,
okay.
He was okay. What happened in the playoffs was a direct result of what he decided to do in the regular season. So if it was regular season, I'd probably give him a D+, D-. But or actually D, whatever. He was okay. I respect the Paul Reed move after him constantly denying to admit that Paul Reed's a good NBA player and should be getting minutes. Oh, we like DeAndre. Well, look where that led you. So yeah. Whatever. I mean,
at least he seemed to do the right thing, for the most part with that situation. And again, we were short Joel Embiid in the first 2 games in Miami, and it is what it is. So I didn't mind too much of what he did in the playoffs. But it does appear in other news. So that's playoff grades. Hope you enjoyed it. Trust Love works hard on those playoff grades. So. Other news related to Glenn Rivers, looks like he is here to stay. That was pretty much confirmed right after the game. Not shocking. A lot of people wanted him to go, but not shocking that he's here. What are your thoughts on that, one? And then what are your thoughts on some of these comments that he makes? One that you just kind of reenacted.
Dude.
He's very arrogant. The particular comment that I'm thinking of is the one where he was defending his job security post Game 6. And he's like, well, when I got here, we weren't expected to be anywhere, which makes absolutely no sense at all to me. I don't know how he's not getting flamed
as if
everywhere.
He's taking all the credit for the Sixers' success.
Yes, because
funny.
Brett Brown literally took them to this round as well, Doc. And we have Joel Embiid. You came into a situation with Joel Embiid, number 25, Tobias Harris, a young core, and you didn't take
this was given to you on a silver platter,
right?
Dude.
You didn't take the 10 and 72 Sixers and take them to the playoffs in the second round. You took them to the second round where they've already been. So that comment makes no sense.
Right.
So thoughts on Glenn Rivers? He's here to stay, and some of that arrogance. What's your thought?
Like you said, not surprising. I wanted him to go. Lots of people did, but I had a feeling he'd be back. And again, Daryl said, "Oh well, me, Doc, and Elton Brand, we make a great team, so we're excited to whatever." I don't even care for the last part of that quote. Yeah, he was like, "Oh, I think I did a terrific job. I'm not worried about my job." It's like, dude, you weren't terrific. You were far from it. And it's just things like that. Like, he knows that people are on him about stuff, and he doesn't. He knows that he's gonna stay because Daryl Morey likes him, and which again, I'd love to know. I'd love to ask Daryl, "Hey, man, Doc's great and all, but don't you think there's other options out there? What are you drawn to Doc about him?" What is so? I know he's won a championship, but that was 20 years ago. So I don't know.
Oh gosh, yeah, we're gonna post that on Instagram. Okay. Oh man. So, yeah, I don't know where to go with Doc, but moving on. I got nothing else to say about him, but he's back. Yeah. So, a couple other things, a couple other notes here as we wind up. I think you've posted a little bit about this, and there's a lot of talk. I saw something today, the audacity. I got a notification, a YouTube notification from NBC Sports Philadelphia talking about potential trades for Tyrese Maxey.
Some people up in these Philadelphia media stations are just I don't want to be mean or anything, but just insane.
I was like
something's wrong there.
Yeah, because that's not going to happen, one. But we do know that there are other potential moves to be made. Yeah. And stuff can happen. And obviously, we've got a long off season. We're going to get into a lot of that stuff. But one of the things that you've mentioned that caught my eye on Trust the Love and wanted to talk about here is the Sixers didn't make it out of the second round again. There's an issue. There needs to be different players and that kind of thing. And you made a comparison. Okay, do the Sixers need a star? Or do they need more bench depth? And the bench killed them this year, yet again. Did this lack of star power kill them a little bit? Maybe, because Joel wasn't playing and because James Harden wasn't dropping 35 a night. Maybe that hurt a little bit too. But kind of run through that issue. Is it they need a star? Is it they need more depth? Is it both? How can that work? Without getting too off-season-ish. But, just give me your thoughts there right now, present day.
Well, I think depth is going to be more important and should be higher on the priority list this offseason because the Sixers haven't had a bench since 2019. And even then, I'm looking at I have a t-shirt hanging on my wall. James Ennis, Amir Johnson, Zaire Smith, who wasn't even playing really, Mike Scott, Greg Monroe. That's been their best bench. And that bench sucks. They haven't been very high on acquiring depth, and this was the only year with George Niang where they, partially that was Daryl, but every good team has quality depth pieces, and the Sixers don't.
Right.
So it's a no-brainer for me, and like you said, we'll get more into it in the off season.
Okay, so that's number one on your list of priorities for the Sixers is bench depth.
Yeah.
So I don't know, real quick, what would any names come to mind? Any names of, who needs to go or who needs to come in or?
I mean, I would have to actually look at who's going to be a free agent.
Are you sick of Matisse Thybulle?
Well, when we talk about Matisse Thybulle next week, which I think we are going
yes,
to.
We are.
We are going to. Trust me, I have definitely some breakdown on that.
Okay.
I'd have to really get into a dive on who's a free agent, restricted, unrestricted, all that stuff. So
okay, all right. So Michael hit it right there. We're gonna get into a little bit of what's next for the Sixers. We're gonna give a more, full, in depth look at the season that was the 2021-2022 season for the Philadelphia 76ers. We're going to tie a bow on that thing, and we're going to move on, after next week. We're just going to, it's going to be draft, it's going to be free agency, it's going to be trades, it's going to be looking, preseason will be right here soon. So it's going to move fast, but we'll tie a bow on this season next week. So other than bench depth, answer one more question for me. So it's a disappointing end to the season. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
Second round exit yet again. We have James Harden on this team, and we still couldn't get out of the second round. So what's one thing that you take away from this season as we transition to next season? And what's another priority, or what's another thing to watch for? What's another thing that you want to see? Maybe it's you want to see a healthy Shake Milton getting 20 minutes. Maybe it's a healthy James Harden. Maybe, what's one thing that, internally, in-house, without making a prediction that, Sixers are going to sign this guy, but in-house that you would love to see next year?
I'd love to see a healthy Shake. I'd love to see James Harden with another offseason, and seeing if the hamstring is an issue, then maybe this offseason will resolve that. 4 or 5 months off, maybe 3 off of basketball as a whole, whatever the case is, I don't know. But I think that could really change things.
Mm-hmm. All right. You heard it here, and we're looking forward to next week. Planet 76, episode 52. Tonight, episode 53. Next week, hope you'll join us as we look at what is now next on the table for the 76ers. We will see you next time on Planet 76.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to Planet 76 Podcast. Please consider subscribing. It helps us out a lot and lets you know that you enjoy what we post. So thank you, and peace out.